Alright guys, the next phase of this is they're going to be putting a radiant barrier in the attic. So what that is going to do, that's going to go up here across the posts, and it's going to cause a couple things to happen. It's going to cause an air gap between the ceiling and the attic, so that the heat from the ceiling can't get into the attic really. The second thing is, I don't know if you've ever noticed, but if you've ever walked around an attic, there are nails sticking through everywhere where they've tacked everything down. I don't know if you've ran into the pointy nails, they hurt. It doesn't prevent you from hitting them, but it gives you a little barrier in case you accidentally nudge the wall. And then, third thing, everything's going to be silver. It's going to look like a room full of aluminum foil. So, yeah, I shot a little bit of footage of before, so hopefully the after we can tell what it looks like.
Alright guys, so this is the radiant barrier install. It took these guys about 4 or 5 hours to do my attic. I have a 2,800 square foot house, roughly, and so that made my attic about 4,200 square feet. So, what is a radiant barrier? A radiant barrier is usually installed in a home, typically in the attics. You can do it in the crawl spaces if you want under a house, but it's primarily used to reduce the heat from the summers and to reduce your cooling cost. It's usually a barrier that consists of a highly reflective material that reflects the radiant heat rather than absorbing it. They don't, however, it does not reduce conductive heat, so the heat from like wood to wood transfer in an attic. How they work is heat travels from hot to cold. It's just the way heat travels by a combination of conduction and convection and radiation. Heat flows by conduction from hotter locations to colder locations within the material. So in an attic, it would be like wood to wood touching. Or if you picture coffee, when you put a spoon in, it conducts heat to the spoon from the hot coffee to the cold spoon. Heat travels through convection with liquid or gas. The gas in this case would be air. So the hot air being generated by the hot roof, the air coming off the roof. And then it makes the heat fall to denser materials. And then you have radiant heat, which travels in a straight line away from the surface, so the direct sunlight hitting the roof and the heat directly generated is pushed off the roof, and that's what it becomes. Most common insulation materials work by slowing conductive heat flow, like convection. Radiant barriers, though, they reflect. They are a reflective insulation system, and they reduce the radiant heat gain. So to be effective, the reflective surface has to face an airspace, meaning the attic. So dust accumulation and things like that can affect it also. Now, when the sun hits the roof, it's primarily the sun's radiant heat that makes the roof hot, so not necessarily the rays. Much of the heat travels by conduction, so it's from material to material, so from the shingles to the plywood. Radiant materials can reduce cooling costs by 5 to 10%, if not more. Obviously, they always go on the lower end whenever estimating. So there's different kinds of radiant barriers. There's plastic, there's strand board, there's air infiltration, all kinds of different things. There's even just standard insulation that can be used. If you're going to make this a DIY, make sure you follow instructions. You don't want to put all this stuff up and figure out at the end that you did it wrong. So that's my attic. Let's check out the next video for the